Howdy friends, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I want to introduce you to my friend, Purple Loosestrife. If you're new here, my name is Corinne. I am a clinically trained herbalist living in Kawartha Lakes, Ontario. I love talking about natural health, healing, of course, herbal medicine, and all things plants. So if this is your cup of tea, I invite you to stick around. So yesterday, when we were driving into town, I noticed all of the ditches were filled with these beautiful purple flowers. And this is Purple Loosestrife. So I thought, you know what, if people are out driving, checking out the plants, and you're wondering what's growing in kind of like those side ditches on the road, you'll also find this plant near lakes and ponds and waterways because it loves growing anywhere where it's damp. That should give you some idea of how wet it is on our property because this plant just popped up. But Purple Loosestrife kind of has a really interesting history as well as some really awesome medicinal properties. So I wanted to bring it to your attention. Whenever a plant shows up on my land that I did not plant here, I pay attention. It's usually because either I need it, my clients need it, or maybe the world at large needs to know this plant a bit more. All right, so I alluded to a really interesting history with this plant. In fact, it was an organization called Ducks Unlimited that tried really hard to eradicate this plant. Now, this will often happen when plants are brought here from other areas. So Purple Loosestrife, I believe, is not native to this area. And so it found its way into like ponds and lakes where, of course, duck hunters really like to be able to hunt ducks. And as you can see, it gets pretty darn tall. And because it was an invasive species or deemed an invasive species, Ducks Unlimited did work with conservation authorities to try to reduce the population, but really they were trying to eradicate this plant off of waterways. The things that they used, oh my gosh, I encourage you to look into this. It could be an entire video. They released 2 different types of beetles in hopes of, like harming and eating this plant. They did, in some case, use herbicides and pesticides, including glyphosate. So that's a little unfortunate. They worked with conservation authorities in ways of creating environments that were not suited to this. Now, I mean, we could all talk about the motives for this. Ultimately, one of the main reasons they wanted this plant gone was because it obscured the views when they were hunting. But I always find that kind of interesting when there's so much hate for a plant. Now, I think this was back in the 80s. Guess what? Their actions didn't work. It's still everywhere. And I actually really love this plant, so I'm going to be harvesting some of it for tincture, and let me tell you why. All right, one of the reasons I really like having this plant in clinic is because it, along with plants like goldenrod and elderflower, is a pretty decent little anti-allergenic. So this would be good for people who have seasonal allergies, right? I also really like using it because it helps to detoxify the system, its main actions being on the kidneys and lymphatic system. Now, topically, this would actually be a great little plant to work with as well, especially if you're dealing with things like hemorrhoids and varicose veins, spider veins. You could infuse some of this in witch hazel maybe. It's not a great antibacterial, so in terms of working with it in a salve, even though it does help to heal skin and tissue, it does help to stem bleeding, you're going to want to include some other plants to cover any potential bacterial infection. Another reason why I like to have this plant in clinic is it's what's known as a febrifuge, and I actually have a whole video on herbal febrifuges. These are herbs that help to modulate fever, meaning that it's pretty decent to have in stock during kind of cold and flu season. It doesn't have a lot of immune stimulating properties on its own, so you're going to want to pair it, I don't know, with something like echinacea, elderberries, other plants that help to stimulate that have that antiviral property. But I keep saying my favorite reasons, you guys can tell I just love plants in general. This is a pancreatic. So this plant helps to naturally support the pancreas and help to balance blood sugars in the system. So as you can see, there's a whole lot of reasons why I would want to make a tincture from this. You could do an infused oil. Like I said, you could do a witch hazel extraction if you wanted. Okay, just a gentle reminder, friends, I am not allowed to give any specific dosing information. I can't tell you how to use this plant, what conditions it would be good for. Both the platform in which I share this and Health Canada, they got rules. And so if you want to deep dive more, you want more in-depth learning from me, deeper than I can go on YouTube, you want to learn about formulating, specifics about plants, then I invite you to check out Weavers of Plant Wisdom, which is my monthly membership platform. There is information in the description below if that is your cup of tea. But what I will talk to you about are the situations where we want to be a little bit more cautious with purple loosestrife, botanical name Lythrum salicaria. This is a really astringent plant. So when I want you to think about astringency, like a lot of people will use like a toner on our skin and it helps to sort of like tighten the pores. Astringency in the body can really start to dry out the membranes. And so because it's really astringent, we want to be careful combining it with other plants that are also known astringents, things like pine, calendula, you know, those types of plants. Because there are some actions on the pancreas, if anyone's on any blood sugar medications, you've got to be a little bit more cautious. Because this plant does detoxify, I wouldn't use it during pregnancy or lactation. And last but not least, because it does have some nervous system effects as well, we're just careful if we're on antidepressants, anxiolytics, or any mood altering meds. Alrighty friends, well, I hope you have a new appreciation for purple loosestrife, the plant that survived Ducts Unlimited. Sometimes we have this skewed opinion of these plants that we consider to be invasive, but they're here. And so instead of spraying the entire world with chemicals and try to get rid of them, why not learn about their awesome medicine? Just my 2 cents for what it's worth. Now, if you've got any questions, comments, you know what to do, leave those below. I'm pretty good at getting back to folks. And I think that's it. So until next time, this is Corinne from Spiraea Herbs, wishing you health and wellness.